Hey, how's it going, everyone? So what am I working on now? Well, I'm working on a 2003 Nissan Frontier. It's a 3.3 V6, four-door. It's two-wheel drive, and it's a stick shift. It's not supercharged. You could get these things supercharged, believe it or not. Odd situation here. Customer said the truck just died. Okay. So just shut off like nothing. Okay. So they let it sit for a little bit, and it started right back up. Okay. Started driving it, shut off, just shut down. Okay. So you wound up having it towed in. All right. I go out to it, starts right up. Had the thing idling out there for 20 minutes, no issues. I walk away from it, I come back, still running, walk away, come back, it's off. Turn the key, starts right up again. What the heck? So this is the end of the day. So I figured, all right, let me look back into this next day. I go back out to the next day, start it up, run perfect. Have it running. I was like, you know what? Let me take this thing up the road. I put it in reverse. I go to back up. All of a sudden, bah! Shuts off. Okay. But it's weird how it shut off because it almost like the motor started to die out a little bit. Like not just like you shut the ignition off. It just like bah, and then shut down, as if you shut fuel off. You shut fuel off, you have pressure, and then you lose pressure to a point where it won't run anymore. Okay, that's odd. Usually if you have a bad fuel pump will always be straining and stuff like that. Or it just won't work. All right, so I put a fuel gauge on it. In this, you actually have to run it in line. You have to open up the line and take it in a line there. So I had it running, perfect fuel pressure. Actually, just a little bit above what it's supposed to be, which is fine. It wasn't out of control. And I'm watching the gauge. All of a sudden, I could see it right at 50, and all of a sudden it goes boom and goes to zero. And of course, when it got to about 7 or 8 psi, the motor just shut off. But you could hear it all of a sudden, like when it got to about maybe 12 to 15 psi, you could hear the motor kind of struggle a little bit. So I'm like, well, that's strange. Okay. So there again, it was the end of the day, and I'm actually doing this for one of my customers. And actually, this is the same customer. This is my number one client right here. And so I'm like, darn it, I think the fuel pump might be going out on it. I put a fuel pump in this thing already. Not even a year. Well, it was right about a year ago. Put a fuel pump in it. Okay. So I'm sitting there thinking, I was like, but it just doesn't make sense. I've never seen a fuel pump do that. I've never seen it just shut off. Could it be overheating and shutting down? Yeah, but I've never seen that. It's kind of odd. All right. So I go to where the relay is. And I said, okay, let me test the relay. I want to test the output of the relay. So I did, and of course everything was working fine. Started it up. I had everything I needed to have. Now, on the end, before the relay is actuated, or energized, I should say, the end that's going to the fuel pump is grounded. You might be wondering about that. That's how electric motors work. Basically, you have one end of the motor is grounded, like a light bulb, and I'm going to show you that. One end is grounded, and if you go to the other end that's supposed to have power and you don't have power to it yet, it's still grounded, because you're basically completing a circuit to ground. Once you add power to the other end, the resistance of the light bulb or the motor or whatever in the middle there is what makes it work. And one end's ground, one end's power. Take away the power, now you have ground. If you took away the ground, you'd have power on the ground's side. And follow what I'm saying? Like if you unclipped the ground wire from its, say, grounding point, and you measured that wire, you would have power if you have 12 volts on the other end. Let me show you simply what I'm talking about with a light bulb. It's very easy to understand if I show you with a light bulb. So here I have my power probe. The power probe, if you don't know what that is, it'll supply a power or a ground through the tip, or it'll tell you you have a power or a ground through the tip. Now it has a grounding point too here, so you can, like this with this light bulb, I can have a ground here. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to check here. Now, let me just show you what the power probe actually does. This is a great tool, but you got to know what you're doing because you can destroy stuff if you don't know what you're doing. Ground. See the green light? Power, red light. And there you see 12.3 volts. 0 volts. Actually, let me shut the light off. Maybe that'll make life a little bit better. Yeah. Oh. 12.3 volts, 0 volts. So now, with the bulb grounded, if I go and I touch the tip here, see that? It shows ground because I'm going through the bulb to create a ground. Basically, the ground path is completing all the way up to that point. So now, if I add power, the bulb is going to light. Watch. See that? So the bulb is fine. So when I'm measuring at the fuel pump relay here, this point here is going to measure ground if the pump is connected. So right there, the pump is connected and it's reading ground. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the key on. And as you can see, it's reading battery voltage. Of course, it's a little on the low side, and now it just shut down. So the relay shuts down. It only stays activated for a few seconds while the engine's not running. Let me put a booster pack on this thing so I don't hurt anything. Hang on one second. All right, so the key is in the run position, but it timed out, so the relay shut off. So now I'm going to start this. The clutch switch sometimes is funky on this thing. All right, so see, now it's got voltage. So what was a ground is now voltage. Now it's weird, I have yet to figure this out. I actually got to read or follow up on Power Probe's website or actually in the instructions, because he's noticed how the red is not lit up, well as the red on the plus is not lit up, but the green on the minus was on the negative side. There's a reason for that, I'm not quite sure. But it does, as you can see on the meter there, it's got 13 volts. So, and it's running. So what I'm going to do right now is, the motor's cold, so I'm going to go and I'm going to do some cleanup. I'm going to leave this thing run. I'm going to leave it running for like 20 minutes or so. I think I found the problem. I already put this thing up in the air. I think I found the problem. It's going to be a weird one if that's the problem, but I think I found the problem. So, let me go do some cleanup and we'll get back to this. I figured 20 minutes or so. I'm going to let it get hot. It never ran beyond 20 minutes before. Matter of fact, the funny thing was, it ran for about 15 minutes and I was like, why is this thing not shutting down? But it was a cold day. Today's not bad now. It was cold this morning. It was 28 degrees here, which is very cold for here. But the other day when it ran for like 15 minutes, and I was sitting there wondering, like, why is this thing not shutting down? It was cold again. So, what was going on? I'll explain. So she's warmed up. It's been about 20 minutes. And it still has perfect voltage. So, what happened? Why was it dying? I know why. I already had it up in the air. And the reason the ABS light is on is because it's up off the ground. And the fluid coupling in the transmission, even the manual transmission, the right rear wheel has been slowly rotating, so the ABS light kicked on. Because it saw an issue, like why is it seeing speed on one wheel? It doesn't know. It doesn't understand. Let me put this up in the air and I'll show you what I found. I already fixed it, but because I was curious. Anyway, let's put it up in the air. Alright, so here we go. Up in the air. Here's the gas tank here. Here's the fuel pump module up here. So what I did was I started tugging on wires. You know, like I always said, always tug on wires. You know, you don't gotta go, grab them and try to pull yourself off the ground with them, but just grab them, tug on them. Look at the harness, look at the loom, and see if you see anything out of place, where it possibly could be damaged. So I came across on this side, and I was looking at it and everything else, and here it looks fine. Up here, everything's looking good. And I got over here where it comes through the floor. and I happened to notice some of the wires were sticking out. I was like, okay, well, that's a bit odd. This wire here, that's a fuel pump power wire. So I noticed the wires were hanging out. So I started to like tug on the wire, and I felt the spongy spot, or like a springy spot. And I pulled and it snapped, which told me the wire was broken on the inside. Look at these two wires here. I don't understand that. So I checked some other wires, but anyway, yeah, so that wire was broken on the inside. Like, I don't know if somebody did something here. I really have no idea. Just weird. Unless he caught something, because this is underneath the car. I mean, anything's possible. So, I mean, it wasn't like this bad, but some wires were sticking out. I made it like this because I wanted to get to the wiring. So, yay. I mean, that's not a difficult fix. It took a little time to figure it out. But it's just weird, and the only thing I could think of is it was making contact, so it was working, and then it would heat up, because that's a lot of load on that wire, considering it's running an electric pump. So it must have heated up, and then eventually just, the connection came apart, because the wire was probably heating up in there. It was probably a soft spot in the wire, and over time, it just, I guess, probably overloaded it or whatever. Maybe from the initial pump that went bad on this thing. Who knows? I mean, who knows? Maybe it was compromised, way back when, and I never realized it. Anything's possible. Anything's possible. So, all right. Well, I got to put the dashboard back together. I got to clean that up. I'm gonna wrap it. I'm gonna tuck it back in the loom there and wrap it up with some tape and that. But yeah, let me get that done. Let me get the bottom of the dashboard back together, so this way he can pick it up tomorrow morning. But I mean, not a terrible repair. I got a couple hours in it, but. At least I know. I still got to take the gauge off of it and that too. So it's what? It's like 7 o'clock now, I think. So probably another hour. Let me get this done. All right. So that's it. So that was I get some strange ones. I really do. So if you're getting something out of my videos, hit that like button. If you could, please subscribe. All right, guys. Have a great day. Keep wrenching.